Chapter 1.4, Measure and Classify Angles. So it says an angle consists of two different rays with the same endpoint. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, so here we have two different rays. Okay, the ray on top, it starts at point A and goes to C. So the first ray is going to be AC, and the arrow points to the right. And the second ray, remember you always start with the endpoint, is going to be AB. Okay, so you start with the endpoint letter, then you write the B, and the ray points to the right. The ray symbol always points to the right. So those would be the sides of the angle. And the vertex is where the rays meet. Okay, so the vertex is just point A. You can think of the vertex as like where the angle starts, the point where the angle starts. Now, if you wanted to name this angle, you can use the vertex letter. Okay, so you write this symbol, angle symbol here, and write the letter A. So that's angle A. Or you can use three letters. So you can say CAB. So you write the angle symbol and then write CAB. Or you can reverse the three letters. Okay, you write the angle symbol and you can write BAC. BAC. Okay, so either of those three would work if you wanted to name this angle, but if you use three letters, you want to make sure the vertex letter is in the middle. So if you use three letters, the letter in the middle of the three has to be the vertex. And we'll talk about this again later, but if there were another ray that used the same vertex, for instance, if there were another ray like so, you cannot just use one letter, okay? Because we would not know if you meant this angle here, or that angle here, or that angle here, okay? So you can only use the one letter if there is only one angle at that vertex. If there's another angle at that vertex, you cannot use one letter. We'll talk about that later. So let's try example 1. Name the three angles in the diagram. Okay, so using this diagram, and three letters at a time, see if you can name the angle on the top. Then see if you can name the angle on the bottom. And then see if you can name the largest angle, this whole thing right here. Okay, three letters at a time for each one. Okay, for the one on top, we can say WXY. And with the three letters, you can always reverse it. We can say YXW. So that's the same thing, okay? And the vertex angle X has to be right in the middle. Now for the angle on the bottom, YXZ. And of course, reverse it, ZXY. Okay, and finally for the largest angle, which is the whole thing, we can say WXZ. Or we can say ZXW. All right. Now, like we said, since there is more than one angle that's sharing this vertex, we cannot say angle X. Okay, that's no good in this case, because we don't know if that means this angle on the top or this angle on the bottom or the whole thing. So we can't use the one letter in this case. All right, so an angle is measured in units called degrees. All right, and this little circle symbol is the symbol for degrees. All right, and it says, for instance, the measure of angle WXZ in example 1 above is 32 degrees. Okay, so if you wanted to write that in mathematical terms, you use this letter M. Okay, and the letter M just means measure of. All right, so you write the letter M and then the angle symbol, then you name the angle and you set it equal to how many degrees. So if you wanted to write the measure of angle WXZ is 32 degrees, this is how you would write it in mathematical terms. So the M stands for measure of. So this is for the protractor postulate. I'll show you the formula. It's pretty simple. Okay, so here we have angle AOB, and the number on the protractor for point B, we can just call that a lowercase b. All right, and the number for point A on the protractor, we can just call that lowercase a. All right, so the measure of angle AOB, if we were to write a formula, measure of angle AOB, it would just be the absolute value of A minus B. And like we said, for absolute value, when you subtract, the order doesn't matter. So you can also say B minus A. All right. So either way works. And if you always want a positive number, put the largest number first, the larger number first, and you'll always get positive. You won't have to worry about absolute value. So I'll show you how to subtract the numbers. Now for the protractor, you see there's sets of numbers on top and there's sets of numbers on bottom. Okay, when you subtract, you either want to stick with the ones on the top or the ones on the bottom. All right, so let's start with the ones on top. Right here, the number on top is 180. And right here, the number on top is 40. Okay, so we can do 180 minus 40. Okay, and 180 minus 40 is just 140. Okay, I don't need the absolute value because I put the greater number first and it automatically makes it positive when you do that. All right, now let's try the numbers on the bottom. The number on the bottom right here is 0, and the number on the bottom right here is 140. So we can do 0 minus 140, and that's going to be negative 140. But when you take the absolute value, it is automatically positive 140. Okay, so same thing. And like I said, we could have put the larger number first and have 140 minus 0. It's the same thing. So we either stick with the ones on the top or stick with the ones on the bottom when you subtract. And this would be angle AOB. So this would be for the measure of angle AOB. Okay, moving on to classifying angles. So right here we have an acute angle. and that's between 0 and 90 degrees. So for the acute angle, I just think of it as less than 90 degrees. Okay, it always has to be greater than 0, because you can't have a negative angle, at least not in this application. You can't have a negative angle or an angle of 0. So I just think of it as less than 90 degrees. And the way to remember that acute angle in your mind, you can think of a cute little angle. Okay, because the acute angle is the smallest one. So that's the easy way to remember it. Now for the right angle, it's going to be exactly 90 degrees. Okay, and if it doesn't say 90 degrees, you know that it's a right angle from this square symbol inside the angle, like so. So that's a right angle. Okay, the obtuse angle is between 90 and 180. Okay, it has to be between. Okay, it can't be 90 because that's the right angle, and it can't be 180 because that's a straight angle, which we're going to do in a minute. So obtuse is between 90 and 180. And those are both in degrees. And finally, a straight angle is just a straight line. So the straight angle is exactly 180 degrees. Okay, and that would be the measurement from here to here. Okay, another way you can remember it, all the way around the circle is 360. So if you just do half of that, that's 180. So a straight angle is 180. Okay, example 2, use the diagram to find the measure of the... Okay, let's look at example 2. It says use the diagram to find the measure of the indicated angle, then classify the angle. Okay, so we're going to do two at a time. All right, so see if you can do KHJ and GHK, find the measure and classify the angle, please. All right, let's trace KHJ. Here is K, H, J. Okay, so we want to look at the number associated with them. All right, and you choose the ones on the bottom or on the top. Let's go with the ones on the bottom. Okay, the one for K, it's in between 60 and 50. Okay, so this right here is just at 55. All right, so the number for K is 55. We're looking at the one on the bottom now. And then if you go to J, the one on the bottom is 0. Okay, so it's just going to be the absolute value of 55 minus 0. And if you put the bigger number first, you don't need absolute value. It's just going to be 55. Okay, so that's 55. And what kind of angle is only 55 degrees? Well, that is just acute. Okay, remember, a cute little angle. All right, let's trace GHK. Here's G. GHK, here's G. And we're going to H. And we're going to K. Okay, so we're looking for the measure of that angle right there. All right, so we want to trace it to the numbers. All right, so again, we're looking at the numbers on the bottom. Okay, right here, if we start at K right here, we're right here. Okay, it's in between 60 and 50, so that's just 55. And then since we chose the bottom one here, on the other side, we need to choose the bottom one again. So that's 180. Okay, you can choose the ones on the bottom or the top, but you have to stick with the same one on both choices. Okay, 55 minus 80, that's the same. 55 minus 180, that's the same as 180 minus 55, but it's negative. So 180 minus 50 is 130. That's going to be negative 125. But of course, if you take the absolute value, that's just positive 125 degrees. Okay, like I said, putting the bigger number first makes it easier because then it will always be positive and you don't need absolute value. And we know that the angle that's between 90 and 180 is called obtuse. So the first one was acute, that was 55 degrees, and this one is obtuse. All right, next up we have GHJ and GHL. So please try the measure of GHJ and GHL. All right, so let's trace GHJ. Here's G, H, J. Okay, we're looking for the measure of this angle right here. And really, we know what it is without doing the math, but let's just do the math. Okay, this time I'll pick the numbers on top instead of the bottom. So the one for J, the number on top is 180. And the one for G, the number on top is 0. Okay, so that's going to be the absolute value of 180 minus 0. But of course, 180 minus 0 is just 180. And that's in degrees. All right, what kind of angle is 180? That's a straight angle. Easy to remember because it makes a straight line. And basically, it's half of a circle, so half of 360, it's 180. All right, let's look at GHL. GHL, okay. Let me see here. Okay, GHL. So G, H, L. All right, so we're looking at this angle right here. So let's choose the numbers on top again. All right, so the one for L, that's right here, that's 90. And the one on top over here is 0. Okay, so that's just 90 minus 0. And since we put the bigger number first, the absolute value is unnecessary. That is just 90 degrees. And we know that 90 degrees is a right angle. Okay, for this one here, I want you to please name 3 angles and then tell me which one is the right angle. Okay, so the one right here, that is going to be PQR. Okay, so that's angle PQR, or you can say RQP. And then the one right here is going to be RQS. Angle RQS. All right, and then the whole thing from here to here is going to be PQS. Angle PQS. Okay, and once again, you can reverse those letters. Okay, that's the same. The first one is the same as RQP. Second one is the same as SQR. Third one is the same as SQP. All right, same thing. And which one is the right angle? Well, that is the whole thing. We see the right angle symbol right here, that little square. So that is PQS. Or you can say SQP, same thing. Now the next question, they say draw a pair of opposite rays and what type of angle do the rays form? So draw a pair of opposite rays and say what type of angle. Okay, opposite rays. So I'll draw a ray that's going to the right, and then I'll draw a ray with the same endpoint that's going to the left. Okay, those are opposite rays. And what type of angle do the rays form? That is clearly a straight angle. Okay, and the angle would be from here to here. That would be 180 degrees. So opposite rays make a straight line or a straight angle. All right, this is for the angle addition postulate. So we can add the angle on the bottom, on the top, plus the angle on the bottom, and get the measure of the angle of the whole thing. All right, so the angle on the top, that is going to be RSP. Okay, that's this angle right here. So I'm going to do the measure of angle RSP. And then the one on the bottom is going to be TSP. Okay, that's going to be this angle right here, measure of angle TSP. And that is going to equal the whole thing, the big angle. So all the way from here to here. Okay, that's going to be RST. Measure of angle RST. So all this is saying is that the angle on the top plus the angle on the bottom equals the measure of that whole thing. That's all they're saying. Okay, example 3. Given that the measure of LKN is 145, find the measure of LKM and MKN. Let's take a look. LKN is 145. Let's label that. So LKN is this whole thing right here. Okay, it said it's 145. So we're going to need to add the two smaller angles and set it equal to the bigger angle. Please see if you can come up with an equation of adding the two smaller angles and setting it equal to the big angle. All right, so the angle on the left, this one right here, is going to be LKM. So measure of LKM. And the one on the right is this one right here. So that's going to be MKN. Measure of angle MKN. And the whole thing, the big angle, is going to be LKN. Measure of angle LKN. Okay? So now we just sub in the algebra expressions for each one. Okay, LKM is this one right here. So that is 2x plus 10. Okay, the algebra expression represents the measurement. And then MKN is this one right here. So that's going to be 4x minus 3. Okay, that's the one on the right. 4x minus 3. And then it said in the problem, the whole thing equals 145. All right, so the first one is the one on the left. And the second one is the one on the right. So the one on the right is this angle right here. Okay, I'm not saying it's a right angle. I'm just saying it's the angle on the right. All right, combining like terms. These are all added. So 2x plus 4x is 6x. Positive 10 and negative 3, 10 minus 3 is 7. And that equals 145. Solving for x, minus 7 on both sides. The 7's cancel. Bring down your 6x. And 145 minus 7 is 138. Okay, x times 6, the opposite of times 6 is divided by 6. You do that to both sides. 6 into 12 goes 2 times. Carry the 1. 6 into 18 is 3. So x is 23. But that's not what they asked. They asked us to find these two angles. So we have to take that 23 and plug it in. All right, so the 23 goes right in there. And that is going to equal 2 times 23 plus 10. 2 times 23 is 46, plus 10 is 56. And the other 23, the other angle I should say, goes right in there. That's 4 times 23 minus 3. Okay, this is going to be 92 minus 3 is going to be 89. So this one was the one on the right, LKM. Measure of angle LKM. And this one was the one on the left, MKN. Capital MKN, measure of MKN. And finally, the final check, if we do 56 plus 89, all right, we're doing the angle addition. 6 plus 9 is 5, carry the 1. 5 plus 8 is 13, plus 1 is 145. Okay, and we said in the beginning, it was given in the problem, the whole thing, the big angle was 145, so it checks out. Okay, please pause and try got it problem number 4. And I will give you a hint. Since the big angle is a right angle, that means when you add these two smaller ones, you're going to set it equal to 90 degrees. So please try that one. All right, so let's write the equation first. We have this angle right here. So that's going to be EFH. All right, so the measure of angle EFH. And we're adding that to the one on the bottom, which is this one right here. So that's going to be GFH. And the whole thing, this angle right here, is going to be EFG. So the measure of angle EFG. All right. So the first one is basically the one on the top, and the second one is the one on the bottom. Okay, so the one on the top is this angle right here. That's going to be 2x plus 2. All right, that algebra expression represents the angle measurement. And the one on the bottom, that's going to be this one right here. That's x plus 1. And the whole thing, they said, was a right angle. And not only that, we can see this square, this red square right here, indicates that it's a right angle. Okay, so that's how we know that the whole thing equals 90 degrees. As we did before, combined like terms, these are added. So 2x plus regular x is going to give us 3x. Positive 2 plus positive 1 is 3, and that equals 90. Minus 3 on both sides. The 3's cancel, and we have 3x equals 87. Okay, solving for x, you divide both sides by 3. 3 into 8 goes 2 times, carry the 2. 3 into 27 goes 9 times. And of course, the 3's cancel. So we're just left with x. Now, once again, that's not what they asked. They asked for the actual angle measurement. So we have to take that x and plug it in. So the 29 goes right in here. And that's going to equal 2 times 29 plus 2. Okay, 2 times 29 plus 2. And 2 times 29 is 58 plus 2. That's going to be 60. And of course, that's in degrees. And the bottom one, the 29 goes in there for x. That's just 29 plus 1. And that's going to be 30. All right. So the top one was EFH. And the bottom one was GFH. And really, you're supposed to have the M symbol in the front, the M and the angle symbol, measure of angle GFH. Okay, and the final check, if you add 60 plus 30, of course, you get 90. All right, and we said that before, that it was a right angle and they equaled 90. So that's how you check your answer. Okay, you can mark angles congruent by the same number of marks. So see here, angle B has this one red mark. Angle A and angle B, they have one red mark. Okay, you can do it with 2 red marks. And as long as they both match, they're congruent. You can do it with 3 red marks. And if they both match, that means they are congruent. So you can say angle A is congruent to angle B. Okay, the congruent symbol is the equal sign with the squiggly line on top. And congruent, of course, as we've said in the past, that just means equal measure. Okay, so with the line segments, it's equal length, but with the angles, it's equal angle measurement. Now, if you put the M symbol in the front, the measure of, you don't use congruent, you use the equal sign. Okay, so if you have the M in the front, that means you say equal, but if there's no letter in front, if there's no M in front, you say they're congruent. Okay, so when you have an M in front, you can attach a number to that. Okay, like you can say 80 degrees because we're dealing with the measure. Okay, but if it's congruent, you're not really supposed to say 80 degrees. You're not really supposed to do that. Okay, example 4. Let's try to identify the congruent angles. Let's take a look. Okay, looking at this, see if you can pick 2 pairs of angles that are congruent. Use 3 letters each. All right, let's do the ones with 2 marks first. See this one here? It has the 2 markings, so that is going to be angle GKL. All right, so I'm going to write GKL. And the other one with 2 marks is right there. That is going to be GED. Now let's do the ones with 1 mark. That's going to be right there. That's going to be DEF. So that's DEF. And the other one with 1 mark is right there. That's going to be JKL. Now it says measure of DEG is 157. What is the measure of GKL? Let's see. So they said DEG right here is 157. And they want to know the measure of GKL. That's this one right here. Okay, and clearly we see that this has 2 marks and this has 2 marks. So if this one is 157, the other one is also just going to be 157. And that's in degrees. All right, see if you can pick out the congruent angles in this one here. And I'll give you a hint. You really only need 1 letter each per angle. All right, the ones with 2 marks, we can see angle P and angle R. So angle P is congruent to angle R. And the ones with 1 marks, with 1 mark each, T and S, so T is congruent to S. All right, in the diagram, PQR is 130, QRS is 84, TSR is 121. Let's label those, okay? Instead of using the 3 letters, just use the vertex letter, okay? So go by the one in the middle. Q is 130, so I'll go to Q and write 130. And then QRS, we'll go with angle R, that's going to be 84. So angle R, we're just going to write 84. And then finally, TSR, go by the letter in the middle. S is 121. S is 121. And it says find the other angle measures. Okay, pretty easy. So see if you can get the other 2. All right, if this one has 2 marks and this one has 2 marks, they're both going to be the same measurement. Okay, so angle P is going to be 84. And if this one has 1 and this one has 1, they're going to be the same measurement. So that one is going to be 121. Okay, so just match up the ones with the same number of marks. Okay, and of course, these measurements, these angle measurements, are all in degrees. So you just put the little degree symbol. All right, it says an angle bisector is a ray that divides an angle into 2 angles that are congruent. So basically, the angle bisector just cuts the angle in half. All right, I'll show you on the diagram. All right, example 5 in the diagram at the right. YW, ray YW, bisects XYZ. Let's take a look. So this here is ray YW, okay? And this bisects the angle. All right, that means it cuts it in half. So as you can see, that angle is congruent to that angle. So we know it's an angle bisector just from the diagram, not just from the write-up. Okay, XYW is 18. Find XYZ. Let's see. XYW, just this one right here, is 18. And they want you to find XYZ. So see if you can figure that out. So this is just angle addition. Okay. The angle on top is XYW. All right, so the measure of XYW, and then add the one on the bottom, ZYW. measure of angle ZYW. And that equals the whole thing, XYZ. All right, if this one is 18, this one here is also 18 because they're both marked congruent, and they said this was a bisector. All right, so it's just 18 plus 18. And that equals the measure of angle XYZ. And of course, 18 plus 18 is just 36. And that's in degrees. Alternatively, you could have just done 18 times 2, right? Because 18 is half of the whole thing, so you could have just said 18 times 2 is 36. Same thing. All right, last one. It says angle MNP is a straight angle and NQ bisects angle MNP. Draw the angle and that ray NQ. Use arcs to mark the congruent angles and give the angle measures of these congruent angles. Okay, I'll give you a hint. Let's start with angle MNP as a straight angle. So a straight angle is going to be like that. Okay. And MNP, the letter in the middle has to be the vertex. So M, N, P, right? That's a straight angle. And ray NQ bisects it. So here's N. We have to draw ray NQ. So that means N is the end point. And Q is the other letter on that ray. See if you can mark which ones are congruent and find the angle measures of those congruent angles, please. Now, since it says NQ bisects the angle, I know that this one here is congruent to that one there. Okay, those are going to be the same measurement. And since it says it's a straight angle, I know the whole thing is 180. So each one of those is just going to be half of 180. Okay, so that's going to be 90 degrees. And since it's bisected, we know that this one is also going to be 90 degrees. So that's it. It was a straight angle, and it was bisected. Remember, the straight angle is 180, okay? It's a straight line, and you cut that in 2 halves, you have 90 and 90. All right, so one problem for the bisecting angle, one more problem. It says in each diagram, ray BD bisects angle ABC. Find the measure of angle ABC. Let's take a look. All right, so let's look at number 40. They said ray BD bisects angle ABC. Bisect means to cut in half. So we know that this angle is congruent to this angle. Okay, so ray BD bisects the whole thing. All right, so if I were to make an equation, I would say the measure of ABD, that's the one on the left, and that's going to equal CBD, the angle on the right. Measure of angle CBD. All right, so we're just putting in the algebra expressions. Okay, ABD is this angle on the left. That's going to be 4x minus 2. And CBD is the one on the right. That's going to be 3x plus 18. Okay, notice I'm not adding the angles. This is not angle addition. These are congruent angles, so I just set them equal to each other. Solving for x, we want x's on one side So I'm going to subtract 3x. 3x minus 3x cancels. 4x minus 3x is x. And now I want the negative 2 on the other side. So I'm just going to do plus 2 to both sides. 2 minus 2 cancels. Bring down the equals, and 18 plus 2 is 20. Okay? So x is 20, but they want the measure of the whole thing. So we have to take that and plug it in. All right? So the 20 is going to go right in there and right in there. Okay, so this one here, that's going to be 4 times 20 minus 2. 4 times 20 minus 2. 80 minus 2 is 78. Okay, and that's 78 degrees. And we should get the same thing here. All right, this is 3 times 20 plus 18. Let me rewrite that. 3 times 20 plus 18. Okay, 3 times 20 is 60, plus 18 is 78. Now they wanted the whole thing, ABC. So this one is 78, and this one is 78. We're just adding. All right, so 78 plus 78, that's going to be 156. And that is the whole thing, the measure of angle ABC. And that, of course, is in degrees. So when something is bisecting or cutting the angle in half, you set them equal to each other. You're not using angle addition.